Hello friend, this is again Dr. K.G. Revatkar from Dr. Ambedkar College, Diksha Bhumi Nagpur. Today I am speaking with you on a very important topic in physics, that is magnetism. We all are aware about magnetism, but there are certain basic concepts and basic criteria which if we understand properly, then it will be easier, because many a times when we talk about electromagnetism, then it will be very difficult to understand the concept. So let me start with some basic concepts so that it will be easier for you to understand the higher phenomena and higher concepts in magnetism or electromagnetism in general. Now, the magnetism, as we all know, is one aspect of combined electromagnetic force. It refers to a physical phenomena arising from a force caused by a magnet. Objects that produce fields that attract or repel each other, because many times we played with a bar magnet, that when we try to bring two bar magnets of same color, generally red color, coated by the red color pen, then we find we just play with that. So a magnetic field exerts a force on particle in the field due to a Lorentz force. All material experience magnetism. Some are more strong than the other. Permanent magnets made from materials such as iron, we all know. The experience of the strongest magnetic effect is in a substance is known as a ferromagnetism. With a rare exception, this is the only form of magnetism strong enough to be felt by the people. Now, let me start with the introduction to the magnetism. So now we know that magnetism is a force of attraction or repulsion that acts at a particular distance depending upon the intensity of the magnetic field. And this is due to the magnetic field, which is caused by moving electrically charged particle. It is known as the inherent in magnetic objects such as magnet. The magnet, what is magnet? The magnet is an object that exhibit a strong magnetic field and will attract material like iron to it. We all know, this is our experience. The magnets have two poles. One pole is called as a north pole and the other one is called as a south pole. Two magnets will be attracted by their opposite poles. So north north they will repel, north south they will attract, and so on. So magnetism has many uses in a modern life. Now then the three questions arise. Number one, what is magnetic field? Because when we talk about a magnetism, one should know about what is the magnetic field and what is the magnetic force. The second question we can try to answer in this presentation. And the third, what is the relation between the magnetism and electricity? Many times we talk about the electricity and magnetism or electromagnetism, where the field, electric field can have some effect on the magnetism, and with the help of magnetism we can have the effect on the electric field. So magnetic field is consisting of an imaginary line of force, as you can see from the diagram. So this is a north pole and this is a south pole. So this imaginary line of force are coming out from the north pole, so they are coming out and then they are again entering into the south pole. So the example, we can include a spin of proton and the motion of electron through a wire in an electric circuit. So magnetic line or magnetic field is nothing but a line of flux of a moving charge particle. So this line of flux, this is called as a flux or line of force, you can say that. So this is what we can call it as a magnetic field. Now, what is the magnetic force? The magnetic force is nothing but the magnetic field of an object can create a magnetic force on other object with a magnetic field. The force, that is what we call as a magnetism. Now, when a magnetic field is applied to a moving electric charge, such as a moving proton or the electrical current in a wire, the force on the charge is called as a Lorentz force. I will explain what is Lorentz force. Now there are two kind of the forces that has been experienced. So suppose we consider this is a magnet. So north and south poles are there. So we all know that the line of fields are coming, or line of flux is coming out from the north pole, and if there is a south pole in front of the north pole, then we know that in a south pole, in a previous we have seen that the line of force are coming out from north and the line of force are entering into the south pole. So naturally from north it will be coming out and entering into the south. So similarly from north it will be coming out. So when two magnets or the magnetic objects are close to each other, there is a force that attracts the pole together, but provided that the north and south pole should face each other. Now in a repulsive case, when the two magnetic objects have like pole facing each other, the magnetic force pushes them apart. You can see north north or south south. So the line of force are coming out and the line of force is coming out from this magnet. So naturally they will be repelling each other. So this is a repelling force. When the two similar poles coming together, they will repel each other. So now then the third question is magnetic and electric field. What is the relation between the magnetic and electric field? Both are similar and in different in some aspect. They are also interrelated. So we can see the electric charge and the magnetism are similar. Number one, just as the positive and negative in the electric field charges attract each other, the north and south pole of the magnet attract each other. So this we can call it as the similarity. Number two, the electrically like charges repel. That means plus plus or minus minus. They will repel, and same is the case in magnetism. The like pole repel each other, north north and south south. The electric charges, number three, the electric charges and magnetism are different, because in electric charges we consider the charges, actually the charges are there, and in magnetism we consider a monopole, monopole like north and south, or if together we call as a dipole. Now the magnetic field is a dipole field. Yes, it is, of course. If we replace one pole, we don't get any kind of the force. So that means that every magnet must have two poles. On the other hand, a positive and negative electrical charges can stand alone. They can be separately seen, but the north and south pole cannot be seen separately. The electrical charges are called monopoles since they can exist without the opposite charges. Now we can see about the electron. As in this diagram you can see that if I consider this yellow circle as a nucleus and this blue sphere that will be rotating about the nucleus. So electron will be rotating about the nucleus. That motion is called as orbital motion. While rotating about the nucleus in orbital motion, the electron can also spin about itself. Now that we can see from this diagram. So now you see here, this is a moment of the electron. Now it will be turning up. So at the same time, when it rotates about the orbital motion, it also rotates. So it has a two kind of the motion. One is the orbital motion and second is a spin motion. So because the electron is a point particle having a mass 9.101 into 10 to the power minus 31 kg, and it has a charge minus E minus 1.602 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, and it has an intrinsic angular momentum h cross upon 2, where h is known as a Planck's constant, and this value is given over here. Now the same magnetic moment, the Bohr magnetron, in case of the nucleus, we can consider mu be 9.27 into 10 to the power 24 ampere meter square is associated with the 1 by 2 1 by 2 h cross of the spin angular momentum or the h cross of the orbital angular momentum. So now we can see here. So here in this diagram, so this is a magnetic moment created due to the, which is being shown over here also or here also. So this magnetic moment is because of the spin motion of the electron. So electron has a two magnetic moment, 1 by 2 h cross. If we consider in the plus direction, that will be in the upward direction, then this is shown by like this arrow in the upward direction, and minus 1 by 2 h cross in the downward direction, that is because of the spin motion. And then in another figure you can see it can also be revolving around the nucleus. So it has again the magnetic moment, angular momentum because of the orbital motion. So in this case, this M we can consider very simple way. If we consider a corkscrew rule, when the tip of the right thumb, if we consider tip of the right thumb like this, okay, and if I rotate my thumb and this index finger in such a way that then direction of the index finger shows the direction of magnetic moment, and this direction of the thumb, if I rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise, that will show the direction of the electric current. So on an atomic scale, magnetism is always associated with angular momentum. Okay, so now we can see over here, in the previous case we have seen about the spin motion. Now we can see about the orbital motion. The electron is revolving around the nucleus in a particular orbit. So in this case, the magnetism in solid is due to the angular momentum of electron on atom, and the two contribution of the electron moment, one is orbital motion. This is because of the motion of the electron in a particular orbit about the nucleus, and spin, the intrinsic rest frame angular momentum, that means the spinning about itself, and that is given by this formula: m is equal to minus mu b upon h cross this L plus twice h. So with this brief introduction about how the magnetism that will be created, let us start with actual introduction to the magnetism. In physics, magnetism is a force that can attract or repel, push or pull away closer the object that have a magnetic material like iron inside them, magnetic object. So in a simpler word, it is a property of certain substances which pull closer or repel other. This is what you can see from this animation also, right? This is a magnet, and it is been, the space is there. The moment it in the metal is inserted in between the gap, this spin that gets attracted. So it is the characteristics of the magnet that causes electron, that causes attraction or repulsion due to the motion of the electron. So we can say that the magnetism is associated with the electron. Yes, of course, the magnetism is also associated with the nucleus, but we are not talking today about the nuclear magnetism. Okay, so we'll restrict ourselves to the motion of the electron. Okay, so these are some of the examples of the magnetic material that we come across in our daily life. Almost every device, the domestic device which we come across in a daily life, that can have, even if you consider an example of a fridge, when you close the door, it gets slowly pulled up, and at the edge of the door, if you see, there is a plastic magnet. So this is a nickel knife. Now this is a swipe card where also magnetic strip is been attached. Here the latch is there. Now even in some computer, the power plug has a magnet so that it gets attracted. Now let me tell you one very simple case, that if we consider a car, then there are 26 different devices are there in a car which can uses a magnetism. Even in your computer also there is a magnetism. This is the electric motor car and toys, and then the debit card or the ATM cards, they do also have the magnetism or the magnetic strip attached over there. So there are three different kind of the magnetic materials that has been observed. Basically, the study of magnetic property of a magnetic material, the material is usually placed in a uniform magnetic field, and then magnetic field is valid. Then there are three major kind of the magnetic behavior that can be seen. On the basis of that, the materials are divided into the categories. There are subcategories also there, so we'll come across it. So first category is a diamagnetic material, second is a paramagnetic material, and third is a ferromagnetic material. There are antiferromagnetic materials are there, and ferrimagnetic materials are also there, but that is a special case of ferromagnetism. Now let us start with the diamagnetic material. So if we consider a simple case, that these are the line of force and this is what we can say that the electron, then that will go in a diamagnetic, or you can say that they will be in a diamagnetic material are repelled by the magnetic field. If you apply the magnetic field, and if the material is a diamagnetic material, then they will be repelled. So you can say that the material that are freely magnetized will place in a magnetic field. So same is here in this case. So this is a diamagnetic material, and this jar is coated with the this is a magnet and jar is coated with diamagnetic material. So you can see this is being repelled in one another direction. So an applied magnetic field creates an induced magnetic field in them in the opposite direction, causing a repulsive force. In contrast, paramagnetic and ferromagnetic materials are attracted by the magnetic field. And the best example of diamagnetic materials are mercury, gold, and bismuth. Now let me explain you about the paramagnetic material. These are metals that are weakly attracted to magnets. They include the examples of the paramagnetic material are aluminum, gold, and copper. So let us see over here in this example. Now in absence of a magnetic field, external magnetic field, these are the magnetic moments of the magnet in the material. Now when they will be placed in a magnetic field, strong magnetic field, then we can see that some of the magnetic moment of the individual magnets or individual atom that will align themselves in the direction, and some are not aligning, some are aligning in the different direction. So therefore the net magnetism is not a strong over here. So paramagnetic material have a permanent dipole moment or permanent magnetic moment. However, if we remove the applied field, the material tend to lose their magnetism. Yes, that can be seen. So paramagnetic materials are materials that tend to get weakly magnetized in the direction of the magnetizing field when placed in a magnetic field. Now we can see with this example animation that when we switch on the field, the magnetism is being created. This is the two poles. Then they are being aligned in the direction, and the moment we switch off, the magnetism will be lost by the material. Now, in case of a ferromagnetic material, which is called as the strongest magnetic material. So ferromagnetic material exhibit a strong magnetism in the same direction of the field when the magnetic field is applied. Now here from this animation you can see that when this H field is applied, all the magnetic moments of the individual atom will align themselves in the direction. Same is the case over here. This is a random domain orientation in a material in a normal case without magnetic field. The moment you apply a magnetic field in this direction, all the individual magnetic moments align themselves in the direction of the external magnetic field. So in this material, the magnetism is very strong. Rare earth magnets are exceptionally strong ferromagnetic material. Yes, that produces magnetic field about 1.4 Tesla, and 1 Tesla is something about 10 to the power 4 Gauss. So here also you can see with this the help of animation. So when we apply the external magnetic field, they will be in the direction, they will align themselves in the direction of field, and when we remove that, they will be disturbed, they will be randomly oriented. This is what we can say that is an example of the ferromagnetic material. Now there is another case of ferromagnetic material, but that is called as the antiferromagnetic material. So in absence of the strong magnetic field, antiferromagnetic materials are weakly magnetized. Weakly magnet. In absence of the magnetic field, they are weakly magnetized in the direction of the field. This property of the material is called as the antiferromagnetism, and the material which exhibit this property is called as the antiferromagnetic material. So you can see in presence of a magnetic field also they can have the magnetic field, and even in absence of the magnetic field there is a weak magnetic directions that will be seen in case of antiferromagnetism. Now this is a chart wherein the atomic and magnetic behavior that can be seen. Dimagnetism, the atoms have no magnetic moment. Absolutely, this is a graph between the magnetization and versus the magnetic field. So now in case of a paramagnetic, the atoms have randomly oriented magnetic moment. You can see here this orientation is downward, this is in the left direction, this is in the right direction, and randomly oriented. So therefore the magnetism, the magnetic field versus the magnetization, if you plot the straight line will become, and very small magnetization that will appear. Now in case of a ferromagnetism, if you see over here, then all the magnetic moments of the atoms will be aligned. So atoms have a parallel aligned magnetic moment. So therefore the magnetic moment will be high, maximum in this case. And then once all the atoms are magnetized, align themselves in a direction of an external magnetic field, it gets saturated. So this is a curve. So from the curve also we can distinguish that what kind of the magnetism the material behaves, and we can know the type of the magnetic material. Then in antiferromagnetism, some are aligned in the direction, some are aligned in the anti-direction, anti-parallel line. So therefore again it is more or less like a paramagnetism, but it is little bit more than the paramagnetic material. Now there is a special case of ferromagnetism that is called as a ferrimagnetism. So atoms have mixed parallel and anti-parallel aligned magnetic moments. So therefore the magnetism is there, and again it gets saturated, but the magnitude of the magnetism in a ferrimagnetic material is less than the ferromagnetic material. Now we can talk about the superconductivity. That is it possible to have a superconductor? Yes. The superconductivity is the ability of a certain material to conduct electric current with practically zero resistance. That is what we can call it as. So for a material to behave as a superconductor, low temperature are required. Superconductivity was first observed by Owens, H.K. Owens in 1911, a Dutch physicist. Now, when we consider a zero resistivity material, that means we can see over here, in case of a non-superconducting material, so the resistance is offered. But in case of a superconducting material, at a particular temperature, that we can call it as a critical temperature. Okay, so we can have the magnetism, the resistance. So here it is a magnet, and these two magnets are there, that has been placed in a liquid nitrogen, and once that will be given a rotation, it will be keep on rotating. This is what we can say that the magnet. What is the critical magnetic field? Yeah, so the field below which the field below which a superconductive material is superconducting, and above which the material is normal at specified temperature and in absence of the current. Now the superconducting state of a material cannot exhibit in presence of a magnetic field of a critical value even at absolute zero temperature. Yeah, the critical magnetic field Hc can be denoted by H0, where H0 is a critical field at 0 Kelvin. Then T is a temperature below Tc, that is called as a transition temperature or critical temperature, you can say, and Tc is the transition temperature, where the material will be changing from one phase to the another phase. So in case of a superconducting material, we can see over here the Hc where here, and Ho is a critical field below field at zero temperature, and the behavior is something like that up to Tc. So this is what, and in case of a normal behavior, the material behave like that. And some of the material that can be used in a superconducting niobium, Pb and Sn, and Sc for zero temperature will be given for the material like this. Now the critical magnetic field, the Meissner and Ochsenfeld in 1933 observed that when a superconducting material at temperature T greater than Tc, transition temperature, is placed in external magnetic field, the line of magnetic induction pass through the body. This is what we can see that over here, the temperature greater than Tc, higher temperature than transition temperature, and the perfect conductor, the line will passes through the material and body. But when it is cooled below the critical temperature, that means the temperature below a transition temperature, if we take, see, you can hear, then these line of inductions are pushed out of the superconducting body. So inside a superconducting body, the magnetic line of force will be zero, even if it is a conducting material. So this effect is known as a Meissner effect. This is what we can see over here, that the line of forces, this is a magnetic material and the magnetic line of forces. So below critical temperature, we can see over here from the superconducting, this is here, then this is a rare earth magnet that will be placed over here, and for cooling below Tc, the nitrogen that has been used, and we can see that the line of forces are going passing tangential, so therefore they will be pushing it and the magnet will be rotating here. So this is what you can say that over there. So now then, what is the Curie temperature? The Curie temperature is that temperature below which the material may be a ferromagnetic, may be a ferrimagnetic, and above which, above Curie temperature, the material behave like a non-magnetic material. So the transition temperature Tc at which certain material loses its permanent magnetic property, that we can call it as. So above Curie temperature, the material is paramagnetic. As the atom lose their ordered magnetic moment when the material undergoes a phase transition. This is what we can see over here also. So the temperature in case of a ferromagnetic material, if you see here, the susceptibility of the material, the susceptibility, magnetic susceptibility, then up to this temperature, this is a Curie temperature, the ferromagnetism, and above this temperature the material loses ferromagnetism. So the ferromagnetism is over here, and then it becomes a paramagnetism. And in case of a paramagnetism, there is no question arise of the Curie temperature. But in case of a ferromagnetic temperature, the temperature below which the material behave like an antiferromagnetic material, that temperature is called as a Néel temperature. Let me demonstrate you with the help of a video. Here you can see a magnet that has been attached and the metal, a material that will be heated up. So now when we know that when the material is heated up, so it loses all its magnetism. So after 24 seconds, the material, once it becomes a cooled, it loses the. Now you can see in this experiment also what has been happening over here. So now it has lost its magnetism. Now because of the cooling, the again magnetism that has been arise is a ferromagnetic material. So this is a material you can see over here. It will also get attracted by the magnet. So now in case of anti-ferromagnetic material, as I told you, the transition temperature above which the material loses or material transfer from anti-ferromagnetic material to paramagnetic material, that is called as a Néel temperature. This graph will be shown over here, and examples of Néel temperature for some material that will be given. The material in case of a chromium, you see Néel temperature, that is transition temperature 304. In case of ferrous oxide 198. In case of cobalt oxide, it is 290. So this is what the relationship between the susceptibility and temperature for antiferromagnetic material. Now there is another concept that will appear in case of the magnetism, that is about the domain. Then how can we explain this intriguing property? The domain theory states that inside a magnet there are small regions in which, like this you can see, this is the one region in which the magnetic direction of all atoms are aligned in the same direction. You can see over here that this magnetic moment is north south, so in this direction it will be there, and within a domain the alignment of magnetic direction is same. So within that particular area all the magnets have the same direction. Now, and on average over the many domains in the magnet there is no preferential direction for the magnetic force. So that means there are different regions wherein in that particular region the magnetic moment of individual atom will be in a particular direction. You can see over here. So it will be in a different direction. So this north and south pole is an indicator. So in this case north south is in this direction, in different direction, and when the external field is applied from south to north, so they will align themselves in that particular direction. So this is what we can say that. Now why do magnetic domain forms? Yes, this is a question, that why magnetic domains are formed in the material. So now we can consider a bar magnet which has been magnetized such that the entire magnet form a single magnetic domain. Like this we can consider single magnetic domain. So surface charges will appear at either end of the crystal. So you can see here these surface charges will appear at this and negative charges will appear at the crystal. Associated with the surface charges is a secondary magnetic moment called the demagnetizing field, which acts to reduce the magnetic field. So with the surface charges is a secondary magnetic field called the demagnetizing field, which acts to reduce the magnetic field. So what do they can do that in a multi-domain case, this magnetic moment will be in this direction, in this direction. So the energy of the surface charges, you can see over here north south direction. So the electron is revolving in this direction, and in this case the electron is revolving in this direction. The magnetic moment will be in the opposite direction, minus h cross by 2, and here it is plus h cross by 2. So the energy of the surface charges is called as the magnetostatic energy. The magnetostatic energy can be reduced if the crystal form a second domain magnetized in the opposite direction. So because of the magnetostatic energy or plus Wall energy, the domains are formed in the material. So that is called as a magnetic domain. So now why do magnetic domains form? Now if we consider, can we have a multi-domain also? Yes, we have almost in a bulk material the multi-domain states are there. But if you consider a nanomaterial, a very small size atomic level material, then the nanomagnet is a sub micrometric system that presents spontaneous magnetic order magnetization at a zero applied magnetic field, that is called as the resonance. Okay, so the small size of nanomagnet prevent the formation of magnetic domain because the size is very small. So there is no possibility of a large surface area. So surface energy will be small, and in that case, if you see the magnetization curve, then it will be almost single line. So that material is called as a super paramagnetic region over here. And in case of a multi-domain, the area of the BH curve or MH curve will be very large. So now in case of a nanopowder size, if you consider in a chemical reaction, then small size nanoparticles are formed at atomic level, and when they are placed in a compact level. So canonical example of a nanomagnets are grains of a ferromagnetic material like iron, cobalt or nickel, and single molecule magnet. The vast majority of nanomagnet failure features transition metal, that is the titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt or nickel, etc., or rare earth also, gadolinium, then europium, erbium, magnetic atoms are there. So nano gain powder particles can also produce the magnetic moment, but it's a single domain wall. So with this I come to an end of my magnetism. I can have another explanation for the more details, so that we can see in the part 2. Thank you.